My name is Jessica Everts. I am 62 years old, living alone in an apartment in the city. My parents divorced when I was just born, and since then, I was raised by my single mother. Fortunately, I was able to receive education up to university thanks to sufficient support from my father. Afterward, I got a job at a well-known company and married someone introduced to me by my boss. I had a son with my husband, and we were having joyful days. But my husband suddenly passed away due to a severe illness. My son's name is Jake. He used to be a sweet child who cherished me when he was young, but his personality began to change around the time he entered university, and he became more selfish after his father's death.
I am an adult now, so please don't interfere with my life.
While he has grown up and become someone I can rely on, I started to feel a bit lonely as I got older. In the midst of this, Jake decided to marry the daughter of a president of a client company, whom he met through work. The family of the partner comes from a prestigious background, and initially, there was an atmosphere of looking down on my son who was raised by a single mother. However, the father-in-law expressed his farts, saying,
"In this day and age, worrying about family background is an outdated way of thinking. If the two of them agree to get married, that should be enough."
With those words, my son, Jake, decided to marry and become a part of the bride's family. The wedding ceremony was held at the bride's family home. I was astonished when I visited there for the first time, seeing the extensive property and the grand building. I then gave my house to my son and used my late husband's inheritance to buy a new apartment. Though it's located in the city, it's in a quiet suburban area, which I find very comfortable. Jake's wife, coming from an old and distinguished family, seemed to look down on me a bit for my lifestyle in the small apartment in the city center where I lived after the divorce. She probably considers me as someone living off my pension.
Jessica, I have something I want to talk to you about.
What is it?
I'm worried that you might be having financial difficulties.
Thank you for your concern, but I am managing just fine.
My family is very prestigious, and my father is the president of a well-known furniture manufacturing company. We come from a wealthy background. Do you understand that?
She is talking about the wealth of her family, as if it's the most natural thing in the world.
So, I was thinking you might be expecting financial help from us.
What? What do you mean by that?
To put it bluntly, I don't want you to use our wealth for your living expenses.
She seemed to think I was poor and planning to depend on her family's wealth for my livelihood. I have never thought of such a thing.
You might not think so now, but can you promise that it will stay that way in the future?
What kind of education did she receive to have such farts? Thank you for your kindness, but there is absolutely no need for that.
Don't forget what I said.
With that, she quietly left the room. One day, Jake and his wife came to visit my house. I was happy to see my son after a long time and prepared a special meal for them. My mother was good at making light-flavored dishes. I did the same, preparing simmered vegetables and boiled fish. However, Jake's wife, Emily, seemed to prefer stronger flavors and didn't seem to enjoy the meal much.
With such plain dishes, I was hoping for something more luxurious. Can't you prepare any meat dishes?
I'm sorry, I grew up near the sea, so I am good at preparing fish dishes, but not so much with meat. I tried to make an excuse in a subdued manner.
Anyway, it was quite a simple meal, wasn't it?
I was told this in a rather blunt manner, but we weren't poor, you know. I managed to argue back, barely.
Yo, I don't think our family was poor either.
My son, who was listening nearby, surprisingly took my side for once.
But all we had were vegetables. It was so plain. And having just the noodle and the chicken soup, isn't that a bit too modest?
Her condescending attitude knew no bounds. That's not true at all. Everything is homemade. Anger welled up inside me, and I retorted fiercely. However,
Mom, the meat dishes at her parents' house are amazing. There's plenty of brand name Wagyu in Kobe, and I'm totally captivated by it.
My son completely changed his tune and fully supported his wife. Come to think of it, her parents' house is in a famous Wagyu producing area.
Please try the local Wagyu. It's so tender you can cut it with a knife and fork, and it just melts in your mouth. Oh, sorry. We usually eat luxurious things, so it might be a bit too extravagant for you, Jessica.
She said this, covering her mouth with her hand, and smiled smugly. I could only force a wry smile. Some time later, I was invited to her parents' house.
The tourist season is over, and it's a quiet time of year. How about it? Would you like to come?
The invitation came from her. It seemed that this visit was suggested by my son. I had no particular plans, so I decided to accept the invitation. I brought confectionery from a long-established shop as a gift when I gave it to them.
Thank you for your consideration, but we usually enjoy amplifying things here. Still, since you've gone to the trouble, I'll accept it.
Her sarcastic words annoyed me, but this was my in-laws' house. Everyone else seemed to be giving me a cold shoulder, so I had no choice but to endure it. The in-laws' house was as ostentatious as ever. They had made a new pond in the garden, and carps were swimming leisurely in it.
These carps are actually worth about $100,000. We prioritized quality over quantity. I absolutely insisted on it to my father.
She spoke with pride. Her confident demeanor reminded me again of her dominance. My son and his wife invited me to a nearby luxury resort inn. I enjoyed a luxurious moment with great facilities and their prized Wagyu beef. It might have been more enjoyable without her snide remarks. Later, I visited the in-laws' house to express my gratitude, and we all enjoyed tea together. I truly appreciate your hospitality this time. Thanks to you, I was able to enjoy wonderful facilities and delicious meals. I am filled with gratitude. As I expressed my gratitude, the situation took a drastic turn.
Well, there's really no need for you to thank me for this.
She had a look on her face as if she was ready for battle. I'm truly happy as a mother to see my son blessed with such a wonderful family. Thank you so much. I expressed these words from the bottom of my heart to show my sincere gratitude.
By the way, I've been worried about you, Jessica. Seeing where you live made me a bit concerned. Are you living off your pension?
Well, I managed to live normally with it.
But there might come a time when it won't be enough, and you might ask for financial help from my parents' house. I want to avoid that.
I've never thought about that, but...
No, it's something we should definitely consider for the future. So, I want to get things sorted out now.
She began to touch upon the core issue. Sorted out? What do you mean by that?
Of course, I don't mean to say anything harsh. Ultimately, I just wanted to create an opportunity for you and your son to spend some pleasant time together. Did you enjoy it?
Yes, well, I did enjoy it, but...
Then I'm glad to hear that. So, this will be our last connection.
What? What do you mean?
Even if you face financial difficulties in the future, it has nothing to do with us. We can't have a poi Jessica begging for money. It would be troublesome. So, we'll be like strangers from now on.
Strangers. I couldn't hide my confusion and repeated her words.
Yes, that's right. I'll cut off our relationship now before you start asking me for financial help.
My anger was bubbling up inside of me at her condescending attitude, but I showed a mature response. I understand. If that's what you want, then so be it.
Thank you. Now I can live my days in peace. Please take care on your way home.
Thank you for this time. Goodbye. With that, I left her parents' house. Following this incident, I decided to stop sending financial aid to my son. In fact, even after he got married, I had been secretly sending him money without his wife knowing.
Why are you suddenly stopping the allowance?
Cutting off ties means exactly that, doesn't it? If you wouldn't assist me when I need it, the same goes the other way around. Knowing that the allowance I managed to scrape together from my pension was being used for such things, I couldn't help but feel disappointed. Amidst this, I received sudden news that Emily's father had collapsed. He had narrowly escaped death, but due to a stroke, he became unable to work. The family business and his position as CEO were handed over to Jake and his wife. My daughter-in-law's family was wealthy and had once achieved success. However, her father's management policy was quite aggressive, and he was unpopular among many of his business connections. Due to the transition of successors to Jake and his wife, there was a consecutive withdrawal from previous business dealings, and it seemed like the company was on the brink of crisis. Her father was also the CEO, and his sudden health deterioration brought significant turmoil to the company. Normally, I would consider paying a visit to offer my sympathies, but due to our estranged relationship, I refrained from doing so. As she has a personality and management style similar to her father's, I suspect she will pursue aggressive management just like him. However, I have my doubts about whether she truly possesses business acumen. The potential differences in management style between her father and Jake and his wife might be behind the company's decline. Her selfish and self-centered nature, as well as her condescending attitude towards others, were major concerns for me. And those fears have now become a reality. The new business venture she proposed ended in failure. The company's revenue steadily declined, and eventually, it accumulated debt. The sales of our mainstay luxury furniture also faltered, casting a dark cloud over the future of the entire company. While I felt uneasy about these signs, I decided to watch and wait for the time being. Then, suddenly, the company was swept up in a wave of major transformation. The new CEO was my son, and he decided to fundamentally change the company's direction. He chose to scale down the current main operations and explore new fields, a decision I believe was greatly influenced by his wife. Despite holding the position of CEO, he seemed unable to go against her wishes. This was a typical maneuver of hers, but ultimately, it ended in a major failure. The revenue from our main operations plummeted, and the new divisions performed far below expectations. As the company's performance worsened, the stock price took a nosedive, prompting many employees to resign. The company's survival was in jeopardy. I was keeping a close eye on the stock market trends. As the stock hit its lowest point and dividends were no longer paid out, financial magazines and brokerage firms predicted a bleak future. The possibility of delisting became a reality, and the future of the company was shrouded in uncertainty. If delisting were to occur, trading on the stock market would become impossible, making it extremely difficult to raise funds. Bank loans would also be restricted, leaving the sale of assets as the only remaining option. Jake's wife family owns real estate such as forests, but since these properties are in rural areas, their value is limited, and they are not sufficient as a means of raising funds. However, the harsh reality was that there were no other options available. These matters have nothing to do with me since I've been cut off. I quietly continued my life. Later on, I received several contacts from my son and his wife, but I chose to ignore their voices and maintain my distance. Enjoying my peaceful days, I was feeling a sense of fulfillment in my life. Then, on a certain autumn day, I was on a trip to enjoy the traditional autumn foliage. The mushrooms this year were small, but their flavor and taste made my taste buds sing. The landscape, enveloped in autumn leaves, was beautiful, and I was captivated by its beauty. While fully enjoying the charms of autumn, I spent my time leisurely. However, I was surprised by a sudden call from the helper.
"There is a guest for you."
I was puzzled. I hadn't made any appointments, and only a handful of people knew about my stay. "May I have the guest's name?"
"Jess, it's Emily."
I was surprised by the name. I pondered for a moment, and then it hit me. It was someone I used to be close with. But now we've grown apart. Emily, saying the name out loud, brought back old memories. However, those memories were now of a severed relationship. I know her, but due to various circumstances, we are keeping our distance. Could you please ask her to leave?
"Understood."
The helper took my message and left, but soon returned.
"Emily insists on meeting you, even going so far as to prostrate herself in request. What would you like to do?"
Well, if that's the case, I have no choice. Please show her to the parlor. I will join her shortly after I get ready. I hurried back to my room to freshen up. While I felt a bit nervous, I maintained a polite and respectful demeanor towards my visitor. "Thank you for waiting. It's been a while. I thought we were in a mutually agreed upon estrangement. So what brings you here today?" I spoke in a calm and composed tone.
It's been a long time. I can't thank you enough for forgiving my past rudeness.
Forgive, I never said such a thing. We've just met. Are you misunderstanding something?
No. I spoke out of turn. I apologize.
From her words, I could glimpse her nervousness and haste. My calm and aloof demeanor was clearly putting pressure on her.
I heard that this magnificent mansion is owned by Jessica. I'm interested in how you came to live here.
I answered her question with a smile on my face. This house was passed down to me by my father. I spoke the truth, making my position clear. I could sense that she was facing some kind of financial difficulty.
Your father is.
Her voice was filled with surprise and doubt. Her reaction was becoming more and more interesting. My father's name is John Guatkin. He used to be the president of Guatkin Trading.
What? The former president of Guatkin Trading. Does that mean you are the daughter of the previous president?
Her surprise was increasing. I maintained a calm attitude and spoke the truth to Emily. Yes, that's correct. I am the daughter of my father's first wife, and I use my mother's last name. The current president of Guatkin Trading is my half-brother, and my mother has already passed away. The Guatkin family wishes for me to keep my distance, and I have handed over the management rights to my brother. I am not suited for business, so I have chosen to live quietly. I received some of the company's stocks and this house as a gift from my father while he was still alive. Emily seemed at a loss for words, but I continued. I'm not knowledgeable about stocks, so I don't trade them. I live off the biannual dividends, which amount to about $1 million. So it's enough for me to live on. I prefer a modest lifestyle over a flashy one. This house is managed by my brother, and there is a helper who stays here regularly. I can use it freely, so I am making the most of it. Emily listened to my words with a mix of surprise and sympathy on her face.
Is that so? Honestly, I am surprised. But maybe that's a choice that suits you.
By the way, what brings you here today? I thought we were estranged. Do you have something to talk about?
Actually, our company's management is in a precarious state. I was hoping maybe you could help us out a little.
She appealed to me desperately. I see. I sympathize with your situation, but what kind of help are you specifically looking for? Emily spoke while wringing her hands.
My father fell ill. And although my husband has become the president, he is not experienced in management. I was helping out, but a change in product lineup that I led ended in failure, resulting in significant losses and debt. We really need help, and I'm here to ask for financial assistance.
So, you're saying that while my son is the president in name, you were the one holding the real power?
Yes, that's right.
I sighed and continued. And what is the current situation like?
I've tried everything, but one failure led to another, and we incurred significant losses. So, I tracked you down, thinking I'd ask for your help. I'm here to request your assistance. Please, can you lend us a hand?
While listening to her plea, I considered how to respond. I calmed my heart and continued speaking in a gentle tone. Do you remember what you said to me? If I remember correctly, you said, I don't want a poor Jessica becoming a beggar. It's a nuisance, so I'm cutting ties with you. Now, what do you call your current actions of asking for money?
I'm asking for money. Yes.
In society, that's called begging, isn't it?
You're absolutely right.
Aren't you? I fell silent for a moment, lending my ears to her words. Don't take me lightly. After looking down on me to that extent, you can't just come back now and say, please help me.
I'm truly sorry. Please, somehow.
I am not so generous that I can give alms to a beggar. Please leave. Her kneeling and begging continued. Desperately, she appealed to me, trying to move my heart.
Please, I'm begging you. The banks won't lend to us anymore, and we have nowhere else to turn.
Unmoved by her plea, I stood by my firm decision. I'll say it once more. Please leave. I sincerely wish you the best of luck. I held fast to my resolution. Afterwards, I gave instructions to the housekeepers. Please see the guest out, and at the end, sprinkle some salt. The housekeepers respectfully helped Jake's wife stand up from her kneeling position, led her to the entrance, and sprinkled salt at the doorstep. I looked out the window. The garden, beautifully adorned with autumn leaves, spread out before my eyes, wrapping my heart in a serene sense of satisfaction. I simply wished to live quietly. Later, I heard rumors of Jake's wife's company going bankrupt. In order to liquidate her own company, Jake's wife had to sell her house and land, moving into a small rented house with only a modest amount of funds. The whole family was struggling, making ends meet through part-time jobs, according to the information I received. On the other hand, as for myself, I continued my quiet life in a high-rise condominium in the city, living with my cat, Tom, a gift from my son when he got married, saying, "You might be lonely." My cat, Tom, is a long-haired breed, and though he requires a bit of grooming, he is my emotional support, making the moments I spent brushing him the happiest part of my day. As I watched Tom's content expression, I enjoyed my tranquil days. I revealed my plan to trip again to Tom. While I usually visited in the autumn, I considered visiting in the winter for a change. This suggestion came from my consideration of Tom being sensitive to heat, making it impossible to trip in the summer. When I stroked Tom's head, he responded to my affection by biting my hand. When I got angry, Tom looked sorry, licked my hand, and then calmed down. You understand, don't you? That you get attention when you do that. You're just too cute. I was completely captivated by my dear cat, Tom, enjoying communicating with him. Afterwards, I went trip to Snowy the winter. He sat in my arms, gazing at the snowy landscape outside the window together. This year is already coming to an end. When you came to our house, you were small enough to fit in the palm of my hand, but now you've grown so much. He quietly fell asleep. They say that sleeping children grow, but if you get any bigger, I won't be able to hold you. I touched Tom's nose as he slept and stared out at the snowy landscape outside the window. On this quiet snowy night, I gradually began to feel sleepy. I wonder if it will be a beautiful snowy landscape by tomorrow morning. With that thought, I slowly laid down in my bed. Faithfully, he sat next to me. It seemed like I would be able to surrender myself to a world of pleasant dreams tonight. Thinking this, I decided to close my eyes.